Okay, guys. Whew. So I apologize for being a little bit late. I broke my window, which is not ideal. Um, so let's see. I need to mute myself on this. There we go. So let me get a little bit less discombobulated for a second. I want to give you guys a really good update with what happened today in the market because we had some pretty significant news. So every month or so, we obviously get these Fed updates that talk about, what direction they feel that the economy is moving, and and so this week's was pretty impactful because they're going to start talking about tapering the asset purchases, and there was quite a few alert to locks, which in our industry it's like, hey, try to lock in before we have some significant changes. Okay, so I want to talk about that. I also want to welcome all of you guys for joining in. We have a couple of people that are regulars. So we have Rod. Hi, Rod. Nice to see you. Anna Lee, Santa Sanchez, Rachel Williams, Brianna. Okay, so Brianna, guys, she's from San Diego. She actually works on my team. She is really, really amazing, and I love her. We have Yomar, Jen, Kenneth from Chicago. That's cool. Andy Lamb, first day of fall, y'all. Love that. Rachel Williams, Brave Bird, and then Devin Cahill. So wonderful, guys, to see you guys here tuning in. Okay, so here's how the last market wrap that I saw today. So basically, our Fed Chairman Powell said today during today's Q&A that the test is all but met on full employment, and that signals to taper announcement may be coming in November. So basically, guys, this is basically they're tapering starting November, right? They never give definitive answers with the Fed, and that's because monetary policy can change overnight. And so the next couple of days, as we get interpretations of what's happening with this Fed meeting, will mean that interest rates go up and down. And my guess is that they're going to start increasing. So if you are in the process of shopping a home loan, right, what I would do personally is I would try to get yourself quoted at least 1/4 to 0.5% higher than current markets. It's the best way to budget. You're never going to be upset if your payment is less, but you'll be caught off guard if your payments are higher. And 0.5% increase in interest rates, guys, can be a little over $100 a month. So definitely will impact some people's purchasing powers. The estimation is somewhere between, $30,000 and $50,000, depending on your loan amount and down payment, etc. So just be aware of what that does to your buying power. Okay. So let's get started with some questions. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so basically a lot of people asking me about interest rates. I'm going to be posting a brief live tomorrow on my Instagram channel, just kind of giving a better and more deep synopsis because I haven't had a whole lot of time to review the Fed minutes. But it is going to be breaking down my thoughts, and then we'll get to hear, some summaries or some interpretation from all the different Fed chairs from all the different states. So it'll be interesting the next couple of days, but stay tuned to my Instagram stories because that's where I'll be posting this information. All right, so Rachel Williams asks, with the new conventional guideline that allows you to average the middle score for co-borrowers, does that apply if you co-sign as well? So essentially what you're talking about is we use the middle FICO score and it's the lowest mid FICO score from all of the different buyers that are on your transaction. So yes, it counts if you co-sign as well. So if your co-signer has a lower credit score than you have, that's what we're going to be using. Okay. Is there still any programs available for first-time homebuyers? There are a lot of programs available for first-time homebuyers. There's 3% down programs. There's 5% down programs. There's down payment assistance programs depending on, what area you live in. If you're living in Phoenix, Arizona, we have Home in 5 and Home Plus, and then there's some municipality grants like Pathway to Purchase is one, and a lot of the different cities have grants. So yes, totally things that you guys can look at. Let me know if the volume is still low. I'm going to just get closer to the microphone because my husband, who is helping me with all of the tech stuff, went down to try to figure out if he can fix my window. You guys, real life is like no joke. Like sometimes I just want to get on here and have my life be perfect, but I swear to God, all shit hits the fan on Wednesdays because I'm supposed to do this live. I swear to God, I'm just supposed to come here in my most stressed out state possible. Okay, so let me know if you can still hear us, okay? Or hear me. All right, so Sue asks, is there any evidence of a sustainable or easy fix to our housing market problem? I am 25. My husband and I need to buy a starter home like my sister did 10 years ago and when my parents did when they were young. Now said that starter home is so excruciatingly expensive, it will be my only home that I can barely afford. I do not see a ladder to climb here. Okay. Sue, you are 25 years old, okay? And I will tell you that you will not make the same amount of income that you make today at 25 years from now. So it is a very expensive market to be a starter home in. And so a couple of things that I always tell people is that you don't always have to buy to invest your money for the future, right? If it's cheaper for you to rent or it's cheaper for you to live with family, invest your money in the S&P 500, invest in stocks, max out your retirement, and you will see increases. And when it's more beneficial, when you're making more income, when maybe you have less debt, you will be able to buy a home, okay? There's a lot of misunderstandings about, the pathway to wealth. Most of our family has been taught that the first step is buying a home. But the first step should be maxing out your 401k. It's the easiest thing that you guys can do, and you'll barely notice it. So that's like your first step. So I don't think you're always going to be priced out of the market. I do believe that this administration's number one focus is going to be on affordable housing products, and I do think that there's going to be help for you down the line. So I hope that encourages some of you guys who feel like, like you're getting that buyer fatigue and you don't really feel like now is the right time, okay? It may not be for you. Okay. So is there a way to estimate a conventional PMI with a 700 to 720 with 5% down? So, Devin, there is some really great mortgage calculator tool. I'm going to go look it up on my phone because honestly, it's called Loan Calc. So I like it because it allows you to save a couple of different scenarios. So when you get pre-qualified, if you ask them what they're using for a factor for mortgage insurance, that will help you put that into that calculator. It's one of the ones I find to be the most accurate. Now, one thing I will tell you though, if you have a 700 to a 720, it makes a big difference if you have over a 720, okay? So it's 700 to 720, there's going to be a pretty significant range, and not so much an interest rate, but what you will pay for mortgage insurance. So super important that you get a credit plan to make sure that you are above 720 and preferably 740. Okay. Let's see here. How about Biden's 15,000 housing credit? Oh my goodness, you guys. So here's the deal with those things. I think that he honestly has more pressing issues, and housing is definitely one of the issues that I know his administration is going to try to tackle just based on the changes that they've made to the FHFA and just the two housing bills that are currently, being negotiated. But nothing has been released on them. Unfortunately, the last information we got, I think, was back in March, April-ish, and nothing really has come out since. Legislation like that really does take a long time, and typically what happens is that gets implemented with a bunch of other bills that people find to be controversial, and so they get voted and vetoed and changed, and so it might be a while before we see anything. But I do get asked this stuff all the time, and I get it. It's a funny question now, and I always get ripped on my responses for that. Okay, so let's see. So Jessica asks, thanks for taking my question. I'm trying to decide between FHA and a conventional loan. Which do I prefer? So I will say this, and this is just general, okay? So loan amounts vary per county. Loan amounts vary per debt to income ratio, income calculation, you name it. But generally speaking, if you have a 680 or less FICO score, typically FHA is a more affordable loan product because of rate and because of mortgage insurance. So I generally like to have that as be one of the loan scenarios that we provide to a client. Conventional loans in this marketplace seem to have a more competitive edge. Sellers believe that those buyers are way more qualified. And, you know, there are less stipulations in terms of like you don't have to paint a chipping, like a house that has chipping paint. Or, you know, there aren't as many concerns with like things like termite or broken windows. So there are some benefits with going conventional. You do pay significantly less, though, if your credit score is above a 720 on a conventional loan. So it is, and like I said, this is typical answers, not specific. So you definitely want to get both as a side-by-side comparison when you're making a decision. Okay. So Josh says, what's the difference between a new build purchase price and a built home purchase? Well, there's kind of a lot of things. So things that you have to consider is one, a house that is currently like already existing, it's already going to have built-in equity from the area itself. And so typically like you get the better, I think, bang for your buck when you buy a pre-existing home. Now, cons, obviously, you know, you're buying somebody else's, you know, house that they've already lived in and it could need repairs, etc. A new build will include like a base price, and then you will have to go to the renovation center and go through all of the different ways that you want to improve the property, and then that gets tagged on, and realize that you are paying like above retail prices for these things. And so it is very costly to do upgrades, you know, in that design center. So you just want to be aware that that's what gets factored into the price. And, you know, I mean, it has been a very long time, but I'm now seeing new home builds that, you know, are selling for literally top dollar, and people having to pay some appraisal differences on new builds, which is something that I had not seen, I mean, in many years. So that's what you want to be aware of when you're looking at pricing differences, and then your appreciation. So typically newer areas don't appreciate as fast or as great as areas that are already established. Okay, so I'm Thirsty says, I have a 20% ready for down payment mortgage. My broker said I can't exceed $1,120 a month for a $250,000 home. Would I still be qualified if I bought a $180,000 condo? And what would and if the monthly payment is over $1,120? So no, you wouldn't qualify if the payment is over that. If they've given you a max payment, it's based on your debt to income ratio. And typically that max payment has to include the HOA. Now, things that I would ask your loan officer to consider is maybe you don't put as large of a down payment down. And is there a debt payment that you can pay off instead that would give you more wiggle room in your debt to income ratio? Also, I would ask them if they're including all of your types of income. Like, I don't know if you get overtime or bonus or commissions, but those are also things that you might want them to look into, right, to help you maximize your purchasing power. Okay. So Anayeli says, I got my offer accepted in California. Single, first-time home buyer, 3.5% down. Love the letter. Paid $13,000 over asking. And getting the sellers to move out in 2 months, closing this week. There is hope. Girl, you did everything right for somebody who's trying to go in with the most competitive offer. So guys, let's break this down because I think it's super huge, right? One, she wrote a letter directly to the seller discussing probably all the things that she loved about the property. It sets you apart from other buyers. In addition to that, she agreed to pay $13,000 over their asking price and gave them wiggle room to move out in 2 months, okay? So she's using everything to her advantage, right? She's understanding that they have to move out and that they may need some additional time. She's trying to give them some security with saying, hey, this is what I'm willing to pay over and above. And she's really appealing to their heartstrings. So great job. I'm super excited for you. I'm going to be sending so many positive vibes your way. And guys, if you could go ahead and congratulate her in the comments, it would mean so much to me. So great job, girl. Alicia says, what is cash or cash to a new loan? I'm not sure I understand this. Are you saying like what's a cash out loan or cash to close? So So there's that. So maybe let me know in the comments below. Andy says, rule of thumb, no free lunch, save for down payment. You guys, I was actually doing the math on this. You know, almost every single buyer that like is saving up their down payment, regardless of how much they have for savings, can typically save up a pretty significant down payment in 3 years. Now, I know that that's not ideal for some people because they want to move like tomorrow. But the thing is that, like, let's say now is not the right time and you really got to get out of debt and you really got to save a good down payment. I mean, you're going to be in a way better financial position in 3 years, but 3 years goes by so fast. Okay, so Will I Am says, thanks, odd questions, but can someone refuse to sell me their house if they don't like me? So, not legally, they cannot. So look, I mean, it's a very fine line, you know, when sellers have conversations with their clients, but like, you know, they can choose to sell who they want to, but they can't discriminate against anyone. And there's, you know, you can look up, you know, what protected classes are. So no, it can't just be like, I don't like you specifically. And they couldn't say that. But I mean, there's a maybe information you would just never find out, truthfully. So that's the most honest answer I could give you on that. Rachel Barkley, guys, is on this live chat. She is one of the best real estate agents in Phoenix. We work with her all the time. If you're looking for a really great agent, I would hit her up. So, yay, Rachel. Thanks for joining us today. All right. So, hey, Rosimi, I have a quick question. Did you ever figure out your debt to income ratio problem? I know that you were having trouble getting qualified. Let us know what happened in the comments below. I'd love to find out. Okay, so JC says, got my offer accepted on a conventional loan, 10% down, and gave them 2 free months to move out, and they wanted to keep the washer and dryer, so I said yes. Finally got a house after 1.5 years of searching. Dude, my hat's off to you. That is a very long time to wait. I will tell you, though, that the average wait time right now for anyone trying to purchase is 290 days. So you definitely, like, did wait a little bit longer than normal, but honestly, I'm so stoked that you stuck it out this entire time. Again, great strategies for getting your offer accepted, and I'm super pumped to hear that you got a house under contract. And again, guys, can we give him some congratulations? It is rough out there, and we need all of the encouragement that we can provide to one another. Okay, so Andy Lamb says, typical DTI is 45 or less, avoid being house poor. If you want to avoid being house poor, guys, it's technically 28% of your overall gross income. And even then, guys, you really want to account for your overall discretionary spending. The safest thing that you can do, guys, is follow the Smart Steps budget. Really figure out if you can live off of 70% of your net take-home income. And of that 70%, 30 to 50% can go towards housing so that you have enough money to, like, pay down debt, to save for the future. And if you find that that budget is too restrictive, you really have to look at like what liabilities you have and where can you bring in some additional income. Okay, like we sometimes in grind mode when we're trying to build our futures, you got to think about an airplane, right? It takes 120% effort to glide. And so sometimes that means a side hustle. It means living with our parents so we could pay off our cars. There's a lot of sacrifices that have to happen if we're trying to achieve wealth. Okay. All right, so Alicia says seller terms are cash to new. Oh, okay. So that is not a fully descriptive thing. So when you have like an offer, they can say that the new loan type can be X, like so like a conventional loan, but typically it'll say like cash or if they say no new loan, it means that you can only buy it with cash, and that typically means that there's an issue with the property. I see this a lot of times in condos because they're considered non-warrantable, which means that they have like an aspect of the property that is, you know, creates higher risk for the bank. So that could be higher investment concentration, that could be a lawsuit, that could be an issue with the actual property itself. And so important to find out why exactly. But I will say that sometimes you can get some really good deals on cash-only properties. You just have to think about selling the property and that you will only be able to sell to a cash investor. So I have some personal experience with this. So I bought a condo that was considered non-warrantable a couple years ago, and I ended up selling to the tenant for cash. so that way I could just offload it. And it was because he offered me cash, and because I knew that in the future this may be an issue, I took it and ran. So just know that those things can create some issues when you go to sell. All right. Oh, you guys don't know about... Oh, Chris Carrillo. Oh my God, you guys. I love Chris. Also an amazing real estate agent that we work with and a past client and a really good friend. So it's like so fun to see who watches these things. I kind of die a little bit inside because I'm such a dork on these, but it's like super freaking awesome. So thank you guys so much for supporting me. All right. So, I'm not sure what I want. Willis is saying, wait, what is Smart Steps? So Smart Steps is the budget plan that I have laid out for all of my first-time homebuyers, just teaching them on basic financial principles. I've recorded a lot of videos on this on my channel, and guys, we are going to have literally the best like budget mortgage app available in like the next couple of months. We're currently in beta. If you guys want to sign up for the beta and test out the initial product that we have right now, we're working out some bugs. Please do that. It would mean the world to me. Getting your guys' feedback is helping us create like literally the best product. But in the meantime, if you don't want to sign up for the beta, you can just download our Smart Sense app and follow along on a bunch of the videos that we've recorded. Okay, so let's see. So, off topic, any ideas on crypto-backed loans like they offer at Celsius? Probably rare with property since it requires 2-to-1 collateral. Just curious on your take and if I've even heard of it. So Tyler, I have not heard of it. Jen, can you make a note of this comment because this would be a really good future video. I do not love cryptocurrency. So just in general, I would never want to have a loan that it could be super volatile. And the reason you have to have a 2-to-1 ratio on collateral is because it hasn't found its footing yet in value. Think about it as in like margining stocks, right? If the market falls below a certain amount, you have to pay it due, right? They call the money. So like, I don't like loans like that, especially not on real estate, on something that is beyond volatile. Lots of opinions on that on my TikTok and my YouTube channel. And whenever anyone asks me about it, I'm not a fan of crypto. Okay, my friend had a quicken and better mortgage fight for his refinance that started out at 3.2 and ended at 1.95. They have that much room. So here's what I will tell you. I don't think so. They probably did that loan for negative money, but I will also say that what Quicken Home Loans does extremely well and what Better Mortgage does extremely well is that they give you these loans with gigantic fees on them and then these weird lender credits, and it confuses you about how much you're actually paying. And so like, you'll be like, is there a discount point? And they'll say, no, there isn't a discount point, but their origination charge is like $7,000. And so I've rarely found anything, guys, 1.95 like is unheard of. And I would love to see their fee sheet. And also I'd love to see, is it like a 15-year term? That to me sounds beyond crazy. But I mean, people have done dumber things, you know, in battles if they're willing to lose money on a home loan, to each their own. But 1.95 literally would cost them a bunch of money. And I bet they're charging your friend money. Okay, so Devin says, if I live in a primary single-family dwelling, looking to buy a new house or rent the old one, how does that affect my debt-to-income ratio? So they've changed the rules on this recently. And so typically right now, if you're going to rent out the home that you're going to be vacating, instead of being allowed to use the rental income to offset, you know, in terms of additional income, they only allow you to offset the payment at 75% of whatever your rent is. Okay, so I'm going to use basic math numbers because it's end of the day, guys, and sometimes I really stumble on these things. But let's assume your rent is $1,000, your mortgage payment is $500, right? We would use $750. In the past, I could use $250 as income. Now I cannot. I can just use it to wipe out the $500 debt payment. So it does give you some more bandwidth for purchasing power. But what stinks is you can't use that additional rent cash flow to help you bump up your purchase price. Okay. Well, I'm glad you think it's a fair comment, Tyler. Thank you. If you want to start out as a loan officer, What company is good to learn the basics? Like a bank? Well, here's the honest to God truth. I think that you should start at a place where you're not going to screw over your friends and family, and that's going to feed you leads. Because it takes a long time. Like, honestly, my personal opinion is that it takes you 200 loans before you're really proficient in what to do, like in if this, then that scenario. So like 200 loans is a good amount of loans to have seen to know, like, what down payment to do, what happens if you're getting an error with desktop underwriting. And so you either have to join a team, right, that gets a lot of leads, or you have to be in a position like Quicken or Loan Depot where they're feeding you a lot of deals. So, and you're not going to be great at first, just so that you know. So you definitely do not want to screw over your friends and family. All right, so Andy Lamb says, go conventional for first-time homebuyers, skip the bell and whistles out there, not worth all the headaches. I mean, I don't know that I agree with that. I think that conventional loans, like I said, are more competitive. I mean, truthfully, you guys need to do what's best for you financially, right? And sometimes a conventional loan is just way more expensive than an FHA loan. So you just have to really look at them and really examine, what makes the most sense for you financially. All right, so Theo B says, does Cash Call Mortgage do the same thing? I see advertised no cost refinancing. I mean, yes, guys. Typically a no cash out refinance literally just finances in all of the costs to your home loan into the loan. That's how most refinances work. This is just clever marketing. I don't know them, but like, I just really dislike the name, like Cash Call. Like, it just, I don't know, sounds very used car salesy. In like the negative gross way. Okay. Andy Lamb says, skip Bitcoin NFT to invest in place. Okay. Yep. Again, all of these things I absolutely hate. Okay. So Doug Schemmel says 3.65 interest rate at 15 years, $160,000 loan balance. I have 12 years left and pay extra every month. Renting in 6 years. Should I refi to do another 15-year? So this is a tough one because you can save more than 1% in interest right now. But here's what I would do in lieu of doing another 15-year refinance. I would look into doing a 10-year refinance or looking at an amortization schedule. And a lot of companies will allow you to just alter the term for whatever you have left. Because the last thing you want to do is just pay an additional, you said you've had it for 12 years left. So you don't want to extend out 3 years. It would be more awesome to just pay it off in 10. So I hope that helps. Hey guys, another team member just joined us. We have Rihanna. She handles all of the fun credit action plans and all the verifications of employment. The girl is a rock star and I'm so super pumped that she's joining us. So thanks, girl, for joining me. I really appreciate the support. Hey, Erin. Erin is a longtime viewer, one of my favorite people. So thanks so much for the support. The family is doing well. So thank you so much for asking. Let's see. Downtown Abbey forever. Okay, so this person and I legit have the same taste in TV shows. How would it work if a self-employed person whose regular income comes in one lump sum at the end of the month? Would having copies of invoices be enough documentation to keep from raising eyebrows? So in general, for self-employed borrowers, it's not as complicated as you think. I've had borrowers who qualify when they get paid every couple of months. So long as the amounts that are being deposited within the last 3 months equal up to the averaged income, you should be okay. Unless we're talking about the last 2 months you haven't received anything, and then we have to really research the seasonality of the business. And so then, future invoices would really help support this. But generally speaking, we're looking at bank statements to substantiate the amount of stated income on your profit and loss. So you should be fine. Once a month deposit in a lump sum is more than fine. Lots of people get paid that way. Andy Lamb says, get a loan estimate up front from your lender. You'll see the actual rate, not the teaser one as advertised. So he is absolutely correct. Getting a loan estimate is super crucial. But here's the thing that you also want to look at is you want to look at like the actual total origination fees. And then you also want to look at discount points. Okay, everything else on a fee estimate, like your title, taxes, insurance, interest, all of those numbers are going to be exactly the same regardless of who you choose. Okay, so you just really want to be aware that what you are shopping is not just interest rates, but it's costs. Okay, and so you really want to pay attention to that. I have a really great video on how to read your loan documents on the channel you guys should check out. Let's see here. Okay. Can I discuss reverse mortgages? My mom retired with a paid off house worth $250, but can't qualify for a cash out refinance due to being on just retirement income. Okay, so a couple things, guys. So on a reverse mortgage, I don't do these often, and so I might butcher this, but essentially what you're agreeing to is it's like borrowing more and more every single month. And so what happens is people either forego monthly payments or they get income back up to a certain loan to value, right? And then it stops, and then that loan either has to be paid off or refinanced. And so it's a really, really good option for people that are on a fixed income. So if this is your mom, definitely look into that. You know, I can refer you to somebody that does them at our company. I don't personally do them. So I hope that that was a good enough explanation for you. Oh, hey guys, we got another team. God, my team is out in full force today. Say hi to Trevor, guys. He is super awesome. Been with me, gosh, I think almost 4 years now. Super lucky to have you and super pumped that you joined us today. Okay, Andy, you might take the win for all of the comments today. I feel like I'm saying your name like over and over and over again. It says, bank and institutions is the quickest way to get your foot in the door while getting paid, and piggyback on the MLO, but follow Lizzy if you want to move fast. I really think that going the team route is the best way to get your foot in the door. You're going to learn from a top producer. You're going to get to work on loans that are theirs. There's going to be lots of support to make sure that you are not screwing up. So that is generally what I think you should be doing. Oh, Lizzy, I love you to the bank and back. Keep slaying. Thanks, girl. You guys are too funny. Okay, so I'm going to go back to some of the questions that were emailed to me. And if I don't get to your question and you emailed me, I've been asking for these because I have lots of different people who show up from different channels, and I always want to make sure that people get their questions answered. But if I do not get to these, I promise, guys, I will record a video that's specific on some of the questions that I am not answering because I wasn't able to answer a bunch last time too. Okay, so Canada's Prime Minister has promised a 2-year ban on foreign buyers if reelected. Is this something that we should consider doing? Javier has me freaking out. Foreign investors are eating up our housing market. So I don't have enough data on the foreign housing market, but I do think that our legislation, truthfully, and you guys, I am a capitalist, right? So when people ask me my political views, I'm like, whatever allows us to make the most money without all the restrictions, okay? So I am a capitalist. However, I am not in favor of all of these hedge funds and all these big investors buying like hundreds of homes when we need them for first-time home buyers, okay? I'm not into that. It annoys me that Invitation Homes is like buying out a bunch of properties, and then we have these big hedge funds that are just creating rental pools. I think it's unsafe for our future housing market. I do not like it. I think that we are getting way above that 8% amount that they promised us that we would stay under, and so I would like to see them put a cap on that. I don't know that it's like foreign investors, but I do believe that it's a lot of hedge funds. And so I definitely think it's annoyed me already that we haven't already seen some legislation on this. So Lizzy's off her soapbox now. Okay. Oh, hey guys. Yes, thank you, DIY123 Princess. If you guys could go ahead and hit that like button, it really does help boost the engagement on this channel and help get the word out. So please do that. That would be super awesome. All right, so Devin is asking, should we be more concerned with inflation or deflation over the next few years? Okay, so I think actually the issue is more, let me preface this with, I am from Nogales, Arizona, and I have learned everything I know about personal finance and the economy via Google, YouTube, you name it. And I only say to say where I'm from to let you know that it was like a tiny little bubble. So if I say something that is wrong and you are an economy buff, please do not rip me a new one, okay? All right, but my personal opinion is that the issue that we have to worry about most is actually stagflation. Okay, so what is happening right now in consumer sentiment really concerns me because people are starting to get fatigued and feel like they will never buy. And when that happens and people are not motivated to spend, right, we start seeing housing prices go down and then people get insecure about buying when the market is falling. Okay, and so that is not a great environment to be. And so that is actually more my concern is that, you know, people will not purchase because they either feel like they can't afford or they'll be too scared. And that's always what happens. Like what annoys me about all the people wanting a housing crash to happen, it's like if the market started getting more competitive, they still wouldn't buy. My point exactly is that all the people who like didn't buy in 2011 and were waiting because they thought the market would crash, it crashed, bottomed out, and then passed them. And it's been on a rise ever since. You know, we have a basic math problem, guys, that is just not going to be solved for at least the next 5+ years. And that is that there is not enough physical buildings, so physical houses for the number of new families that are being created. And until that math problem gets worked out, I think the value of homes is pretty secure because people have to live somewhere, okay? But in terms of the economy, I'm freaking concerned about so many things because I just don't know that we have a grasp on this. And I think that all of this stimulus freaks me out because I think eventually people will be like, I can't afford this. I don't want to spend. I'm feeling very insecure. So that is more my fear. I hope that that made sense. I know I ramble. So guys, okay, so obviously I'm getting a little bit red and flustered. So my husband asks, which is better, only murderers in the building or 9 perfect strangers? So I love wholesome TV, and I will say that Only Murderers in the Building is like my new Schitt's Creek. It's like my new favorite channel or series. There we go. Steve Martin, okay, is like the cutest, most awesomest old man, and Martin Short is like the best sidekick. I mean, they are like the dynamic duo of television. I love them. And my second favorite show is Ted Lasso. I do watch 9 Perfect Strangers because I'm a glutton for punishment. The show stresses me out, but it is also very good. So let me know what you guys think of these TV choices. Okay. So Lizzie, what's the math on not being house poor? Not the actual percentage, but the actual math. So I tried to explain the actual math using percentages because what's hard is I don't know exactly how much you make and I don't know how much you're actually spending. So how you would calculate this, truthfully, is the national equation for this is 28% of your gross income. So this is before taxes, okay? My personal philosophy is that you always have to have enough money to be able to pay off debt, invest, and save for a rainy day. And so for me, I always tell everyone to try to live off of 70% of their net take-home income, and you can max out the full 70%. So depending on how much you spend, like eating out, on dry cleaning, landscaping, credit cards, etc., that amount can be 30 to 50%, but that's off your net take-home income, and that's off of just 70% of that. So I know that that's not exactly what you were looking for, but that's the best way to explain that because I don't have hard figures. Okay, so my partner and I are planning on buying a house in a few years, and I'm trying to learn the in and outs of the process, requirements, and man, it's stressful, but you are keeping us sane. 9 Perfect Strangers, period. Oh my God, that show is so stressful. Okay. But I love that you love it. So here's what I will say, guys, about getting yourselves prepared. I would watch multiple different people that are experts in the industry, and just know that the best way to prepare truthfully is to start with your own personal budget and figure out what you feel comfortable spending as a max amount and then as a preferable goal amount, okay? And the reason that I mention this to you is because oftentimes people will want a house that is a little bit more. So like, let's say your budget was $1,000, but your dream house is $1,100 and your maxed out price was $1,200. Are you going to say no to it for the extra $100, or would you, sacrifice on eating out? Like, these are decisions you have to be able to make, and you won't be able to know what those numbers are without doing your budget. Okay. And then let's say you don't like your pre-approval amount, right? So the next step is budget, then get with your loan officer and get pre-approved. Find out what you qualify for. And let's say you don't qualify for the amount that you want. Ask them for strategies like, what debt can I pay off that will give me a better purchasing power? Like, how much money would I have to save to impact my, my mortgage insurance, right? So there's things that you guys can do that, like, might take a little bit of time, but this is why you get pre-qualified early. I know that a lot of real estate agents like roll their eyes when I say, hey, try to get pre-qualified 6 to 12 months ahead of time. But I talk to so many people, and when I know that the average buy time is 290 days, and in that 290 days, they can be improving their debt situation, their credit situation, and they can get themselves better homes, I'm like, you're damn right. I think it should be 12 plus months. I just think it's impossible to know what the hard costs are, how to get the most optimal financing if you don't do all of these steps. But number one, budget. Number two, get with the loan officer, and then get with them and find out the best plan to optimize your loan structure. Okay. Oh my God, guys, Zeke is tuning in from vacation. This is so awesome. So so my husband is doing all the tech stuff because he's also super amazing. But Zeke is my partner in crime. I was really sad he's not going to be here for 2 weeks. And so it's just so cool. So can everyone give Zeke a shout out and just say thank you so much for making these lives happen? So yay, Zeke. Okay. So this was a really, really good question, guys. It says, Zahara asks, I'm getting ready to start the home buying process, but I really feel stretched, and I don't know if it's a good move to move in the long run. I have car debt of $15,000 and credit card debt. Should I focus on paying that down before I buy? So here's the deal. I see lots of people paying super, super high interest debt and then buying a house that they do not love, maxing out their total budgets, and then preventing them from getting out of debt when they would be better off suited paying off their high interest credit debt and, trying to see what they could do to pay down their vehicle. Now, vehicles are difficult because people tend to finance a new one every couple of years. And so we just want to make sure that you have the best terms on them. But I generally think that if buying a home is going to prevent you from being able to get out of debt, you should absolutely not be buying, and you should focus first on paying off that debt. It'll give you way more purchasing power, allow you to buy a better property, and you will not feel stretched thinking that you have this property that you don't really like and all this credit card debt like growing and growing and growing. I have literally personally lived this in my life. I don't know, some of you might be tuning in for the first time, but I literally bought a house when I was 23 years old on a 2-year ARM. So that meant it was fixed for 2 years and then went adjustable for the rest of the term. It was interest only, and it went up as high as like almost 9 point something %, you guys. I could hardly sleep at night. And then on top of which, I knew that I owed on my car, I owed $23,000, I owed $48,000 in student loans. And like I had $15,000 in credit card debt, and I could hardly sleep at night. Like paying my mortgage was difficult, and then knowing that that debt constantly accrued interest and the balances were growing was so disgusting. So like things to know about student loan debt, a lot of student loan debt and a lot of credit card debt, is that it includes compound interest. So your minimum payments do not pay off balance, you're really paying off interest, and so whatever isn't paid gets tacked on to the end, and then you pay interest on that amount. So those balances can grow and grow and grow. So I think I've harped on this enough, but if you are in debt and you will not be able to pay it off because you bought a home, pay off your debt first. Okay. So Aaron says that he's watched me for well over a year, asked questions, learned a lot, and applied all of it. Trust the process and her insight. I'm closing next week. Thank you, Lizzy, for all of the guidance. Oh my God. Yay. Oh my God. That like literally freaking made my entire day. I I think I told you it was stressful, so very stressful, hence my red face and my broken window. This just made up for it. I'm so pumped that I came to the live. That is the coolest. Seriously, the coolest. Like, so proud of you. Aaron, where are you buying? What area? I'd love to know. All right. So Sam says, hey, Lizzy, can you explain to me how paying my rent on time will help me qualify for a home? Guys, this is like awesome stuff, but they now are going to allow us to include your on-time rental payments in helping you qualify for conventional loans. This is always a factor that we could do on like government loans or that we could do on VA loans whenever we need to manually underwrite people, but now it's going to be available for conventional loans, and it's really going to help those people that don't have a lot of credit history. So if you can show that you have made on-time payments, this is going to be factored in to our automated underwriting findings. So this is huge. So this is why you should document your rent. It's why you should go with a qualified property manager. And also, guys, if you can get them to report on your credit, this will help boost your score. So I'm all for it. Oh, Aaron, you bought in North Carolina? Oh, that makes me so happy. So one of my places I want to visit. I haven't yet been visiting. I also miss Schitt's Creek so bad. Okay, so Multi-Rage1234 says he owes $746,000 in student loans and needs a home ASAP. What do you do? So I see this oftentimes with people who have like had undergraduate degrees at high cost schools. And so, okay, so sorry, I'm like a mood ring when it comes to things that shock me. That is a lot of student loan debt, and I'm sad to see that that's how much it costs you to get, higher education. But in order to qualify for a home loan, you're going to want to put that on an income-based repayment plan. Otherwise, we typically have to qualify you with 0.5% of whatever the payment is. I'm not sure what you make in income, but it is something to consider, with helping you maximize your ability to purchase. Also, there's a lot of different government programs that I might look into that, talk about forgiveness. So hopefully that will help you get that paid off. Okay, so Devin says, how does underwriting determine if you've paid on time? Date written on a check or when it clears your bank account? So it depends, right? So typically we ask for a verification of rent payment history from your landlord. And so if it's a private landlord, we'll ask you for canceled checks. And typically we'll want to see that they're due on the 1st and that you have payments that are due on the 1st every single month, right, is generally what they look for. So if we see payments that are on the 15th, then on the 28th, then on the, they might ask to see a copy of your lease. We may ask for a longer period of time, but generally speaking, you normally see people paying between the 1st and the 5th. And so long as that's what the checks look like with a written verification of employment, we're good. But most of the time, landlords use property management companies or they own big apartment complexes. A lot of times they use a credit company that will report directly to credit. So it's actually not that difficult to verify their rental payments. Now, where it gets really tricky is when people live with family and then they're just depositing cash. It can be difficult to document and we might not be able to. So there is that. Okay. So guys, I have time for one more question on the live chat, and then I'm going to go to one more question in here. Okay. So it says, help. I bet you get asked this all the time, so maybe you really have a good response to this, exclamation point. My husband thinks the market is going to crash. He wants to sell our home and rent. I told him if we had done that at the beginning of COVID, we'd be kicking ourselves today. How do I explain to him that the crash could happen, but we can't predict these things? Lots of people feel this way, and lots of people you see, okay, so the most relatable thing is when stock market moves up and down, you see lots of people sell, and then you hear that lots of people lost thousands of dollars or their whole retirements because they sold. And it's a lot of people make panicked financial decisions, and they do it with real estate too. So you have to remember that back in 2006, when all this was going down, there was a high number of foreclosures, high number of delinquencies, lots of investors in the market, and a double-digit appreciation. And a lot of those factors are very similar to what we're seeing today. with the exception of we don't do crappy loans anymore, number one. Most of the buyers in this market are occupant buyers and not investors, even though it annoys me that we have so many investors. The majority are people that are actually occupying properties. And again, it's that simple math equation. There are not enough homes for the number of new families that are being created, and that is going to be happening for the foreseeable future, literally the next decade. And so that's what really impacts housing values, is that there would have to be a surplus of homes hitting the market and more than the people that need to buy them in order for them to reduce the value of properties. And it's just, I don't see that happening. Guys, just so you know, like I was looking at the numbers for like what happened with forbearances, and there was like 5 million Americans that went on forbearance. And then when you really break down the numbers, 25% of them never even missed a payment. So 25% of all those people were on time. 7% of them sold their properties because they really were distressed. And then 14% of them were able to make lump sum payments to catch them all the way current. And so when you think about that, right, when you're really talking about the number of foreclosures, it doesn't really sound as grim as we're reading on the headlines. And so you just have to like point them to videos, you know, like my videos, Javier's videos. There's a lot of people making content like this. And instead of being like, and there's a lot of actual data on this that you can point him to. But I will tell you that I bought a house again, like I said, 2006, height of the market, for $168,000. At one point, it was worth $33,000. And if I kept the property to today, I would be selling with more than $100,000 equity than when I purchased it. So you just have to know real estate is a long-term investment. You have to live somewhere. Rent is going up by 12% every single year, and you cannot control that. Nothing like benefits you from renting, guys. Like you're not getting equity. You're not getting reimbursed any of the amount of interest that you would pay someone else's mortgage. Like there's very little benefits unless the cost of living is so much less that you can do things like invest in other things and get out of debt. So I digress. Okay. All right. So Brian Espinosa says, can I explain what supplemental tax bill is? Is it a one-time tax payment? You know what? Honestly, I'm not sure of the term, truthfully, because I don't see that oftentimes in Arizona. But I do know that there are some areas that are grandfathered in with like tax exemptions that lower property taxes for a certain number of years. And so that might be what that is, truthfully. But unfortunately, I really don't know the answer to that question, so I'm really sorry. Okay, Jorge Galvez says, I'm in Michigan and want to move to Florida. My house is paid off. So I want a company to do a bridge loan. Oh, yeah, there's total companies that will do a bridge loan for you to be able to buy a house cash. They're not typically like your banks like Bank of America or Chase or even a company like my own. But a lot of independent banks, like in Arizona, we have one called First Bank, and they're a national banking chain. But if you go there, they have really great bridge products, and you just have to do some searching. But it definitely is possible, especially in this environment. Okay, guys. Well, I am going to wrap up our live show today. If you haven't already liked this live and subscribe to the channel, please do so now. Guys, definitely hit me up in email and on my Instagram. Ask me questions. I really do care about making sure that your home buying experience is successful. And don't forget to tune in next week when we have another live show. Okay? So until next time, guys, see you soon.